Mr. Chairman, thank you for the opportunity to close. Been trying to figure out what to say and make it short because I know a lot of people are tired of hearing this. Maybe I'll start off with everybody that came up here, and most of what you heard from the last 3 days have been from cities and counties or their lobbyists. You heard from some residents. I'd encourage you to remember the comments by Ed yesterday from Nampa. He was right on. You're talking about a small portion of their budgets. But you heard from all of them, and they all said the same thing. Same thing that Representative Mason did. We have a problem. They all admit we have a problem. But nobody wants to find a solution because we've never forced the issue to where they would find a solution. So before I go any farther, let's talk about what this bill does. What does this bill do? It freezes the property tax portion of a taxing district's budget for 1 year. What else does this budget do? This bill do, I mean. It gives those districts the opportunity, if they have a problem, to go to the voters, it's in the bill, and have a vote to go back where they were. So it has that safeguard. It has that exit ramp. It says, hey, if there really is a problem, here's your way out. The bill has that protection in it. Nobody's talked about that. In fact, the discussions you've heard the last couple of days have been nothing more than we can't do it, we can't do it, we can't do it. Go back to Ed's comments. You're talking about only the property tax portion of their bill. They will still have the increase from the revenue sharing. Remember, we send back to the local taxing districts 11.5% of the sales tax. 11.5%. Millions and millions and millions of dollars. Millions of dollars. And that's been going up at about 6% a year. They'll still get that. You've heard all this discussion about values and all this discussion about shifting. It is shifting. And values are going up. But just because values go up does not necessarily mean your taxes have to go up. Remember, property taxes are tied to a budget. I think we're forgetting that. Property taxes are tied to a budget. Think about Ed's comments yesterday. They're tied to a budget. And we're asking to freeze that budget for 1 year on the property tax side only. They'll get all those other increases. You know, when I was a small child, my dad, when I was a teenager, I guess, I wasn't that small. I remember that I got a job, you know, and I was making money. And I was like, woohoo, you know, I had this money in my pocket and I felt good. And I remember my dad told me something I never forgot. He said, son, you have a champagne appetite on a beer budget. You have a champagne appetite on a beer budget. What we are asking our citizens to do, a lot of whom are struggling. Look at it, cost to buy a house in Ada County now. You can't afford to buy a house. We're asking these citizens who are struggling, who are on fixed incomes, who have small children, that have all these expenses. We're asking them to keep sending in more money because we can't take the time for a small portion of our budget and just pull back and look for a solution. We're not going to get a solution as long as we have hearings like this. We'll sit in here and we'll banter. We'll make fun of each other, and I like that. You know me. I like the game of getting out, and I like a good brawl. It's a good thing. I like it. But we have got to find a solution. And we are not going to find a solution if we don't start the ball down the court. You know, you said something a minute ago that really stuck in my head. In fact, I even wrote it down. You talked about we need to provide property tax relief.
You mean Representative Mason?
Yeah, that guy.
Okay.
Right there.
Yeah, all right.
I like Representative Mason.
Okay.
But he did. And I think that all my Democrat friends agree. We got to find a solution. But if you don't advance this bill and force people to come to the table and talk about a solution, you've ended the discussion. You've ended it. This bill has to advance. Is this the final solution? I'm smart enough to know that I don't think it is. But I'm also smart enough to know that if this bill advances, I hope that our good friends from the city, counties, and other taxing districts will sit down with us and find a solution that works. But if you want to stall it out and do nothing, we're not going to get a solution. We have to push the bill forward. We do not have a taxation problem, my friends. We have a spending problem. The governor this last year had all of his agencies pull back 1%. The governor has said, go into your budgets and pull out another 2% of the base. The governor is setting the examples for all of us in the state of Idaho in regards to how to move things forward. Just slow things down. do what's necessary, and let's work together to find solutions. We can sit here and throw fingers at each other, and like I said earlier, I'm good at that, but I think we need to find a solution. And unless we advance this bill, unless we all agree that this is the right way to start the discussion, get that interim committee going, get people at the table, we're not going to solve it. We have known there's a problem with property taxes for years. We've all turned our head like the ostrich with its head in the sand and ignored it. It's time not to ignore it anymore. And if we don't come up with a solution, this is not a threat from Mike Moyle. The taxpayers are going to come up with a solution. And all these people you've heard up here crying and whining the last 3 days are going to not like their solution because it will be worse than what we can sit down and come up with. And I hope that we can sit down and come up with a solution. But to do that, this bill has to advance. So I hope that you could send it to the floor so we can have a discussion. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll shut my big mouth.